You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
A Mad Max-style turf war is unfolding on the National Mall, based on an article by Alex Henderson. Unlicensed, unchecked, and unruled, the scene around Washington, D.C.'s National Mall. Food trucks are crammed bumper to bumper, some without prices posted, some apparently unlicensed, some blocking hydrants, and at least one spilling gasoline. One vendor says a competitor tried to stab him in the eye with a screwdriver. The reporting uses Mad Max language because the environment looks like a collapse of basic order. The real power is the enforcer who isn't enforcing. The important actors here are not the truck owners alone. The real power sits with the institutions that control vending around the mall and decide whether rules exist as law or as decoration. If unlicensed trucks can crowd Constitution Avenue, if hydrants can be blocked, and if gasoline can be spilled in public without immediate removal, then authority is not absent. It is being exercised lazily, selectively, or not at all. That is the actual political story, an urban public space governed by rules on paper and tolerated lawlessness in practice. Mad Max is a convenient misdirection. The colorful framing invites readers to laugh at a spectacle of entrepreneurial chaos. That framing is too small. It turns a regulatory failure into a quirky street scene. It also risks flattening responsibility onto the vendors alone, as if the problem were merely unruly personalities and not the conditions that let them operate. The article's own details point elsewhere. The absence of prices, the lack of licensing, the hazardous fuel handling, the blocked hydrants, these are not mysteries. They are violations. Calling it a food truck free-for-all is less an explanation than an alibi for the system that allowed it. Violence follows the gap between rules and reality. The screwdriver attack is not a random flourish. It is what happens when economic competition is pushed into an underregulated space where there is no credible authority to settle disputes. That does not excuse the attacker. It does show what happens when enforcement retreats and the strongest or most aggressive actors start writing the terms of access themselves. When one vendor calls the others a mafia, that may be rhetoric. But the underlying pattern is familiar. Weak oversight creates informal power structures, and informal power structures quickly become coercive. The capital's favorite form of neglect. This is not just a food truck story. It is a story about how public institutions manage visible disorder when they would rather not do the harder work of enforcement. The National Mall is not an edge case, it is symbolic terrain. If rules can be ignored there, in one of the most watched public spaces in the country, then the issue is not confusion. It is institutional cowardice dressed up as inconvenience. The larger pattern is simple: authorities tolerate disorder until it becomes embarrassing, dangerous, or politically useful to notice. Until then, the consequences are left to workers, bystanders, and anyone unlucky enough to stand near the bumper-to-bumper mess. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.